Hello there, my RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. 2006 to 2009 was an amazing time period for RPGs.
Are you saying this is a dream?
Some of my most favorite RPGs of all time have been released back then, which was the main inspiration for this video. I'm going to talk about some specific games from this time period and try to explain what exactly makes them so unique. This is my favorite era of RPGs ever, so naturally I'm probably going to be a bit biased.
You did it!
And I would like to hear your opinion about these RPGs and your favorite era of RPGs in the comments below. Huge thanks to all of my channel members and Patreons, and if you want to check out different ways to support the channel, stick around until the end of the video. We're getting really close to that huge 100k subscriber mark, so make sure to subscribe if you like the video. There is something about RPGs from this time period which makes them instantly recognizable. The artistic style is certainly one of the major reasons for that. Using vibrant color palettes for creating these fantasy worlds was very common back then. I always thought that having such vivid colors in a fantasy RPG full of trees and forest areas is a great design choice. It usually makes the exploration relaxing and easy for the eyes. I also find it very easy to be immersed in such environments in games, especially if they also have a great fantasy soundtrack. Put those two together, along with an interesting open world to explore, and I could easily forget about the time while playing these games. Gothic 3 and Oblivion would be a perfect example of this. Both of these games came out in 2006 and they are a perfect example why the artistic style is way more important than graphical fidelity. While these games definitely started to show their age, I would say both of them look very good even after 18 years. Titan Quest and Sacred 2 are another great example. Titan Quest has a Greek mythology setting and very vibrant colors. The look and feel of this game is simply timeless. Same goes for Sacred 2, a huge open world action RPG from 2008 with a very vibrant palette of colors. Those are just a few specific examples of games that I played from this time period, but you can definitely find more. On the other side of the spectrum, we also have many RPGs with a dark atmosphere. You could argue that having darker atmosphere would make more sense in most RPGs. Especially CRPGs. These games are dealing with bloody wars, beasts, demons, and so on. So it makes more sense for the art style to follow a darker tone. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic from 2006 has a darker atmosphere, especially on some specific levels. Despite a darker tone, the lighting in this game, as well as the usage of colors, instantly reminds me of 2006 RPGs.
Human!
There's no lack of RPGs with a dark atmosphere, even within the same game series that I already mentioned. Gothic 1 and 2 had much darker atmosphere than Gothic 3, which was a better choice for the setting and the story they were trying to tell.
I can barely remember.
In fact, a lot of fans didn't like how Gothic 3 looked because it was so colorful and the polar opposite of previous games in the series. However, I love all of those games for what they are. Speaking of dark atmospheres in RPGs, Dragon Age Origins would be a perfect example. BioWare wanted to tell a very dark story, so having a gloomy atmosphere and a brownish color palette made more sense for this 2009 RPG. I think it is a bit overdone to be honest, but it certainly made this amazing RPG very memorable.
Couldn't you crawl into a bush somewhere and die? That would be great, thanks.
Or how about The Witcher 1 from 2007? The sequels of The Witcher did a lot of things better, but the dark atmosphere on the first game was unmatched. This game had a more distinctive art style compared to its sequels and a greater focus on horror elements. Like I said, I love all of those RPGs for what they are, regardless of the artistic style. Vivid, dark, or something in between, I will always remember the distinctive look of RPGs from these time periods.
You know what's more interesting than that?
But there is another huge reason why these RPGs looked the way they did, and that would be the game engine, or multiple different engines to be more specific. Nowadays, the large majority of games are developed in Unreal Engine and Unity, which makes the lives of developers much easier. However, it can also make the visual style generic and almost identical to other games that were developed in the same engine. Naturally, this also heavily depends on the studio itself and how talented they are, the amount of resources they have, and the development time. I'm not saying that you can't make a unique looking art style in these engines, that would be ridiculous and completely wrong. But game studios back in the day would use variety of game engines, which is definitely a huge reason why these games looked so distinctive and unique. I don't remember playing an RPG back in the day and thinking that it looks very similar or, God forbid, identical to another RPG. It was not uncommon for studios to develop a brand new engine for the specific game they wanted to make. While that's definitely impressive and almost unheard of today, it doesn't mean that all of them looked very good. Take Two Worlds from 2007 as an example. This game was developed on the engine called Grace, and it was like a much worse version of Gamebryo, the engine that Elder Scrolls game used. To be fair, the second Two Worlds game managed to look very good in general for 2010 standards.
Chance of death, mediocre pay, helpless ingrates. Count me in.
To put things into perspective about game engines, all 7 different RPGs I mentioned so far were developed in 7 different engines. None of which is Unreal Engine, by the way. Crazy, I know. Some modern RPG studios are still using their unique engines, like CD Projekt Red, Bethesda, Piranha Bytes and Crate Entertainment, just to name a few on top of my mind. But even CD Projekt Red is going to use Unreal Engine 5 for their future games. And I know that even mentioning the creation engine that Bethesda is using will make some people rage, which is understandable. Starfield was a huge disappointment for me and many, but the outdated game engine was just one of the problems with that game. However, back when Oblivion dropped, the Gamebryo engine was more than enough for creating a big open world RPG. A big open world RPG with tons of loading screens, but people didn't care that much because the game itself was great. Although the loading screen started bothering me a lot when Skyrim released 6 years after Oblivion and it had the same technical limitations despite the heavy engine improvements. To go back to Oblivion, I remember discovering this game from my best buddy. We talked about RPGs and I introduced him to Gothic 3 while he introduced me to Oblivion. I spent a lot of hours in Oblivion back then, but it was very awkward to get used to all the loading screens at first. Up to that point I was no life in Gothic 3 every day, which had no loading screens at all, and you could even argue that it looks better than Oblivion in a lot of different areas except the character models. But only if you manage to get it running for 30 minutes without crashing, falling through the damn map, or burning down your PC. Come to think of it, I basically experienced loading screens in Gothic 3 as well, because the game would stutter like crazy back in the day. Gothic 3 had plethora of technical issues and it was very unfinished in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to quests and the story. But it was also ahead of its time from the technical side of things, and if you watch my channel for a few years, you know I made multiple videos about this topic. Piranha Bytes used Genome engine, which obviously had amazing potential for creating massive, beautiful open world RPGs with no loading screens. In fact, they are still using the same engine for their newer RPGs. In the meantime, the amazing Gothic modding community managed to completely fix 99% of technical issues in Gothic 3, so it's fully playable today. This is hands down one of my most favorite RPGs, not only from 2006, but just in general. You can check out this video I did last year if you want to get the best out of this game. Putting Oblivion and Gothic 3 aside, Titan Quest was another huge RPG from 2006 which defined my personal taste for RPGs. In fact, this game single-handedly ignited my passion for Diablo-like RPGs. Like I said before, I played Oblivion and Gothic 3 way too much and I needed something a bit different. Something familiar, within the same genre, kinda, but not really. Titan Quest was, and it still is, an amazing action RPG. The open world was huge and very beautiful to explore, along with a very solid action combat system. The spiritual successor of Titan Quest is Grim Dawn, which was developed in the same game engine. Grim Dawn felt instantly recognizable if you played Titan Quest, but Crate Entertainment also improved the engine a lot. I've made multiple videos about both of these games, so feel free to check that out. Titan Quest still holds up incredibly well today, graphically and gameplay-wise. This kind of artistic style is just timeless, and it's yet another RPG from 2006 with a vivid color palette. The unique character progression system of mixing two classes still feels amazing. Grim Dawn uses the same system, but they improved it and expanded the character progression even further. Titan Quest is such an easy game to get into today for another playthrough or trying it out for the first time ever. It even got some brand new expansions in the past 7 years. Not to mention that you can play it on pretty much all gaming systems nowadays. Check out my full retrospective video about this game that I did not so long ago. After Titan Quest, I went back and played a bunch of ARPGs that I missed, like Diablo 2, Torchlight, and a lot of similar games of this type. But only in 2008, my itch for ARPGs would be properly scratched. Wait, that doesn't sound right. You know what I mean. I hope.
What do you mean?
Anyway, I didn't expect a lot from Sacred 2, but I was pleasantly surprised. It had a similar design philosophy like most ARPGs of this type, but it also had a lot of unique features. I was blown away with the ability to ride a horse in an isometric Diablo-like RPG and explore a massive open world. A vivid fantasy world with eye-popping colors and plenty of unique things to see all around the map. The gameplay was certainly a bit clunky, especially compared to modern ARPGs, but it's still very fun for what it is. It's another RPG from this era of games that I'll never forget. You'll struggle to find similar features like fully open world, mounted combat, unique class mounts, combat arts, etc. in modern ARPGs. I recently made a video about all Sacred RPGs where I go in greater depth about all features, so feel free to check it out. Before I started playing The Witcher 1, I would rarely play any RPG only for the story. I actually quit The Witcher on multiple occasions. Only after I tried playing it again for the third time I think, it started to click with me because I was getting really immersed in the story and the atmosphere in the game. I started reading all the Witcher books after I was done with the game while I was waiting for the sequel. I already talked about the dark atmosphere of this game, but it can't be overstated. The dark and gloomy atmosphere from The Witcher 1 is extremely memorable, despite all the issues with this game. The sequels were bigger and better, but none of them kept the same atmosphere of the original Witcher. The Witcher was developed in BioWare's Aurora engine, which was heavily modified in order to support the vision that CD Projekt Red had for The Witcher. It's a very important game for me, even though I don't replay it all the time like most of the games that I talked about in this video. Probably because the gameplay was pretty boring in general and I already know everything about the story. But we have the Witcher remake to look forward to, which is pretty cool. I just hope they manage to recreate the amazing immersive atmosphere of the first game and improve the gameplay as much as possible. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic is the only game in this video that I didn't play back in the day. I started playing it for the first time recently and I have around 10 hours so far and I'm still not done. I want to make a full review for this game, so stick around for that.
It's magnificent.
Except that it's dead. Bring it back to life and we can be on our way.
This is a very unique game in general, but it's yet another RPG which instantly brings back those same feelings and vibes from this amazing era of gaming. The gameplay is heavily revolved around using the environment to your advantage and kicking enemies all over the place. It was developed in Source Engine, which was known for having some amazing physics advancements. I'm having a blast with this game and I want to take my time to see everything it can offer and make a proper video about it. Fallout 3 should be definitely mentioned here as well. It came out in 2008 and it was the first Bethesda Fallout game after they acquired the license for this IP. I know that this is a very overused term these days and a meme basically, but Fallout 3 really felt like Oblivion with guns. I would lie if I said that I like Fallout 3 more than Oblivion, but I still really enjoyed this game back in the day. The desperate look of the wasteland was the polar opposite of vivid fantasy open worlds, but it was exactly what I needed to break the monotony. I know that Fallout New Vegas doesn't exactly fit into the narrative of this video, but it would be a crime not to mention it. Up to that point, I got much more familiar with the Fallout universe, so I was really hyped about New Vegas. My first playthrough was around 75 hours or something like that, but I replayed this game a lot more than Fallout 3. It had much stronger RPG elements and the same clunky gameplay of Fallout 3, but it was an amazing RPG and it's definitely a fan favorite today. Speaking of Obsidian games, I never played Neverwinter Nights 2, but you could definitely add this game to the list. Don't worry, I have plans for this franchise in the future. Dragon Age Origins is a well-beloved RPG from the golden era of BioWare. It had such an amazing story and characters and a great tactical gameplay. It was a bit slow for my personal taste, but I quickly got used to it. I was really invested into trying to find the best possible tactical setting in this menu, and it kinda blew my mind back in the day. Unfortunately, I could never get into the sequel, even though technically I should enjoy it because it was a bit more action-oriented. But that goes to show you that personal preference should not always be the defining factor for enjoying a game. I also must say that I always liked Dragon Age Inquisition, and I invested a lot of hours into that game over the years. Nowadays, Dragon Age Origins is considered as the best Dragon Age game by far, and rightfully so. It's one of the biggest RPGs of this time period, and a reminder how quickly the tables can turn for a game studio. BioWare will continue making amazing RPGs after Dragon Age Origins, like the sequels for Mass Effect. I only played the first Mass Effect game and I never finished it, but I promise I'll play them all very soon. And of course, you can definitely expect a video about that. We should not forget about the game which created its own subgenre of action RPGs. Demon's Souls came out in 2009 and it was the beginning of Souls-like craziness we have today. I never played the original, but I did play the remake when I got my PS5, and I also played every original Souls-like game except Bloodborne. I'm still waiting for that 60 FPS patch or a remaster, but if I get in the mood, I'll just play the original. The original Demon's Souls has a special place in gaming history in this golden era of RPGs.
Brave soul who fears not death. I shall guide you.
The last game I want to mention is the first Risen RPG. Even though Risen didn't have a huge impact like some other RPGs that we talked about, I think this is one of the best RPGs that I ever played. It was basically a reboot of old Gothic games with a more modern touch. More importantly, it was like a bounce-back game for Piranha Bytes after so many problems with Gothic 3. A very immersive third-person action RPG with a great story and RPG elements. Even the combat system was pretty good in general. It's definitely the best combat system that Piranha Bytes ever made, even compared to their newer RPGs. The game was a bit unfinished in certain areas, especially in later chapters, but overall it was an amazing RPG. The horrible Xbox 360 port didn't do the game justice. It looked amazing on PC if you could run it on hard settings. Risen and Dragon Age Origins defined 2009 for me personally.
You telling tales now?
There are many more quality RPGs of all types which came out during these time periods. I'm pretty sure that you have your personal list and feel free to share it with us in the comments below. I don't wanna sound like we don't get quality RPGs nowadays, because we definitely do. I just wanted to reminisce a bit about these specific time periods which brought us some special RPGs.
It's magnificent.
Except that it's dead.
Without some of them, my channel would probably not exist. But tell me your opinion about this topic in the comments below. Which time period was the best for RPGs and why? Don't forget to subscribe if you like the video. You can become a channel member or a Patreon and watch some of my upcoming videos before they go live. Massive thanks to all my current supporters, and I'll see you in the next one.